Now, Vladimir Putin has responded to opposition to the war in his own country with increasing repression. New laws threaten 15 years in jail for sharing so-called misinformation. Thousands of people have been detained for protesting. Now, Alexei Navalny is the Kremlin's most prominent critic. He's on jail, and now his spokesperson has also been placed on a most wanted list as well. Now, to get a sense of just how harsh the crackdown is in Russia and any hope there may be of an uprising against Putin, I spoke to Alexei Navalny's chief of staff, Leonid Volkov, who is in Lithuania. This is what he had to tell me. Thank you so much for coming on the programme today. We've all seen the horrors coming out of Ukraine, children killed as they've been trying to flee, maternity hospitals being bombed. How have you felt watching that?
It feels enormously painful. It feels, I want to cry. Like Putin is the president of Russia. This is Putin's war. This is not my war. I'm trying to cry as loud as possible, and I ask my fellow compatriots to cry. This is not our war, not in our name. He's doing it, not in our name. But it looks like so far we are not strong enough to stop him, and he's continuing to do all these enormous things and crimes and war crimes in our name. And we can't stop thinking about how it will define future of our country in the 21st century. What will people think and tell of us like in 10 or 20 years? Will Russia become the Nazi Germany of the 21st century? That's actually the questions that Putin poses. And we urge all our compatriots to do whatever possible to stop him before it's too late.
You talk about the Russian people perhaps not being strong enough to stop what's happening. And of course, there have been Russians who have been protesting against the war in Ukraine. But some in the West might think, why haven't more people been taking to the streets to try and overthrow Vladimir Putin? What would you say to that?
When I hear this question, I say, oh, sorry, guys, you in the West still don't understand a thing. This is big problem. Like the West was trying to comprehend Putin's Russia and what's going on, and still many people do not understand what's actually going on. So in Russia now, just turning out for a peaceful protest rally against war, you would face up to 15 years imprisonment. And still there are people that participate in this protest, like every day and every weekend, and we've seen massive protests on Sunday, March 6th, and we have called for another rallies, and we will see another rallies this Sunday. This, despite enormous risks these people are taking. And last Sunday, over 5,000 people have been detained, which means that over 50,000 people at least have turned out. This, despite this enormous harassment and risk and persecution they are facing. So 50,000 people brave enough to say, okay, I cannot accept all this horror being done in my name. So I'm ready to go to jail for 15 years just because this is so unbearable. Mm-hmm. Everyone who protests now in Russia is enormously brave, and everyone who protests represents thousands of other people who stay at home, who are not brave enough to turn out, but they are not to be blamed. Putin has built an authoritarian regime for 20 years, a regime where public expression of dissent has been made barely possible.
I think you're right when you say that people in the West perhaps just don't understand the situation. And I think there has been perhaps a misunderstanding of who Putin is. It can be quite difficult for us to really predict what he's going to do because he is such a different leader to the ones we're used to. If the war isn't going as planned, as many think, how do you think he's going to react as someone who's seen Putin operate over many years?
Well, first of all, here I have to admit, we also didn't get Putin right. So we, the Russian opposition, we have been fighting with him for years. We have considered him to be evil, poisoning our friends with Novichok and arresting us and harass. So I've spent 4 months under arrest, and many of my friends, much more, and so on. But we always have considered him rational, evil but rational. Now with this war, it's clear that we were wrong, because this war, first of all, things doesn't make any sense. He already destroyed Russian economy. He already destroyed Russian army. He already destroyed Russian future. The future of our country is now like very, very unclear what it will be, like the pariah in the world, like for many years now. So no rational man would do it. And we have considered him to be rational. So now we have to reassess it, and we have to consider him to be like a crazy person, which apparently he is. Now, it's so challenging to predict what a crazy person would do next. We try more to address like people around him who cannot be crazy like all of them. And of course, our later actions, the protest and working on sanctions list and talking to like Western leaders on this sanction list are all to install as many cracks as possible in Putin's inner circle, people around him, like a palace coup, like a revolution, someone of his close co-workers turning against him is pretty much the only chance now to stop this war. What would Putin do if not everything goes according to his plan? Well, everything already doesn't go according to his plan. He was clearly planning a blitzkrieg. He was about to take Kyiv in maybe 4 or 5 days, when he is now calling for people to come from Syria to join Russian armed forces. It's a very clear sign that not everything went according to his plan. Of course, no initial plan could include importing like Syrian warriors, like to protect the Russian Christian world. So, but now a lot of things, of course, depend on the people of Ukraine, of how they are ready to fight, and they're doing it very good. On people of Russia, how they are ready to fight, and we are calling for protests, and people turn and participate in this protest. And of course, of the world, like it's now very clear that enormous cost has to be paid to stop this war. There's all the sanctions, of course, they also create a burden on the European economy. That's quite clear. But this cost has to be paid, because otherwise Putin will just destroy the world.
You say he could destroy the world. Do you think he would be prepared to use nuclear weapons? That's clearly what many leaders around the world are concerned about.
As he is crazy enough, we can expect, unfortunately, everything. He's clearly not winning the war against Ukraine, and he might think about other solutions, more powerful weapons, more powerful solutions to change the course of this war, which is now not so successful for him.
And just finally, in your answer earlier, you said that the one chance of ending this would be for those around Putin to try and stop him. Do you think that could happen? The Kremlin, do you think there are enough cracks in those around him and his inner circle to stop this war and to perhaps even depose him?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is probably the only chance, but it is quite feasible, because his elite is clearly unhappy with what is going on. And many oligarchs have already publicly spoken out against Putin's war, which is quite unheard of. And many of people around him are, of course, also not like bloody maniacs and do not want this all to happen. So I believe that rationally it could happen that some of people in his inner circle will decide that, okay, they're ready to take the risk, but to stop it, and they will know that, well, the world will be thankful also for them. I can't call any names. I can't say this guy will probably try to create such a revolutionary situation. This is not predictable, but we have to keep working to create more pressure on these people around Putin to make this scenario more probable.
And thank you so much for your insights. It's been really fascinating to talk, so thank you.